things, even though they look differently. Some look like trees, some look like water, some are like clouds, and some are like animals, and there are different kinds of animals. But if you go deep into them, every object, every thing is built on the basis of some basic building blocks. They are called atoms. So ancient atomic theory, Democritus in Greek, Kannada in India, ancient India. It is 5th century, 4th century before Christ. You can imagine this. A person thinking that everything is made up of atoms. An atom is a smallest particle, smallest part which is indestructible, which is elementary, and there are different kinds of, for example, Kannada has gone further than the Democritus. Democritus only said that there are atoms, but Kannada, he is the founder of a school of philosophy called Vaiseshika. Kannada went on and he said that there are fundamental particles called kanas or anu, paramanus, but these atoms are not one kind. There are different kinds of atoms, and by the combination of different kinds of atoms, we have composite chemicals. We have composite things. For example, 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom combine to produce one molecule, which is called water molecule. Kannada of Indian is a great scientist of that time. He says, we cannot see, we cannot observe atoms directly. We can only see the combinations of the atom. That means we can only observe the molecule. We can only calculate about molecule. We can only measure the molecule. We cannot directly see the atom. That's the statement made by the Vaiseshika philosopher. Kannada, great ancient scientist, materialist scientist. So he applied his observation, he applied his logic, and he came up with this theory, atomic theory, the first atomic theory. That is ancient science. Right? So they started already applying their logic, collecting evidence, and coming up with theories, scientific theories. Those theories are scientific in nature. Why scientific in nature? Because they are not based on belief. They are based on evidence and they are based on logic. If a theory is based on logic, one important feature is you can argue with it. You can counter it with counter logic. You can provide a counter evidence and you can argue with that theory. You can prove that theory wrong. Either you can prove that theory correct on the basis of logic, but you can come up, if somebody comes up with a different logic, with a different evidence, then he can pose challenge to that theory. The nature of scientific theory is, it is ready to be challenged all the time. What is the difference between a theory of religion, theory of science? Theory of religion is eternal. It is infallible. You can never contradict. You cannot go against it. You can never prove it wrong, because it is not based on evidence and logic. It is based on belief. So you cannot really argue with it. Either you believe it or not, but you can't argue with it. But scientific theories are different. They are based on evidence and logic. If you bring out a new evidence, you can say, you scientific theory, please, there is a new evidence, what do you say about it? Either you agree that you are wrong or you accommodate this new evidence. So with the new evidence, with the new logic, you can always counter these theories. In fact, you can defeat. In fact, you can change them. On the basis of the old theories, new theories always come. So scientific theories always improve. They always grow. They always self-criticize. They reflect on themselves. That is the scientific spirit. What is scientific spirit? A readiness, an ability to reflect on oneself. Ability to correct oneself. An ability, a readiness to improve and get rid of mistakes, errors, and becoming better and better. That is the nature of science. Nature is not like religion. It does not declare eternal, permanent truths. They are always tentative truths. They are always approximate truths. They are always truths today. Tomorrow somebody can come up with some other evidence and can challenge a scientific theory, and that scientific theory can be replaced by another better theory. For example, we know Newton, right? You heard the names of three, we should always remember three names. One is Newton. Sir Isaac Newton is the father of modern physics. But there is a grandfather also. We remember the father, but we forget the grandfather of physics. Can anybody say who is the grandfather of physics? Huh? Who? Not modern physics. Aristotle definitely is a father of but old physics. Not modern physics. Scientific, two sciences, ancient science and modern science. Aristotle definitely is the father of ancient science. In modern science, but for modern science there is a grandfather also. Galileo. Galileo is the grandfather. What he has done? Challenge Aristotle. He has challenged Aristotle. What is that theory? Aristotle in 2000, before Christ, he propounded one thesis that if you throw two objects from a height, according to their different weights, they fall on the ground. You got? If you throw a heavy object, a light object, which object reaches earth first? Heavy object. If you say this, you are still living in the era of Aristotle. You have not yet reached Galileo. It is a common sense. We think that heavy object will fall faster and lighter object will fall slower. There is a 10 kg iron ball and there is a 1 kg iron ball. If we leave it from a 10th-story building, from 10th floor, if we drop them at the same time, we think that 10 kg ball will reach first. That's a common sense. So Aristotle's formulation is based on that common sense. Nobody has questioned it. Nobody has tested it. Nobody has challenged it. Everybody accepted it because it's a great Aristotle. But what our grandfather of science, Galileo, in Telugu we can say Galileo Tata. Galileo, our grandpa Galileo, simply doubted Aristotle. He questioned it. How is it true? Let me try. He made an experiment, simple experiment. He went into a tallest tower. He went on to a tallest tower, Pisa Tower. It's a story, we don't know really he went to Pisa Tower or not. He went into Pisa Tower and from there he dropped two different weights and calculated. What's the result?
Same time.
They hit the ground on exactly same second. A truth which was standing like a god for 2000 years because it is established by Aristotle, nobody questioned it, but Galileo simply asked a question, created an experiment, and it proved him wrong. It doesn't mean that Aristotle is bad. Because he is proved wrong, it doesn't mean that Aristotle is a fool. Aristotle is wrong in this aspect. Aristotle is great in other aspects, but he is wrong here. If he is wrong, he is proved wrong, we should not be afraid to say, Aristotle, you are a great man, but you are absolutely wrong in this. Sorry, boss, in physics you are bad. In your sociology, in your political science, in your logic, in your aesthetics, your philosophy, you are great, but your physics you are messed up. Sorry, we want a new physics. So Galileo starts a new physics. This physics is based on experiment. This physics is not just based on thinking. Thinking is required for science, but experiment is required. Experiment is the vehicle on which thinking should travel. Experiment is the vehicle, thinking is the travel. Right? You got the point? But in Aristotle times, in olden times, they don't have experiment method. They have only one weapon called mind. They used to think, they used to logically think, and they used to come up with theories. But Galileo has changed that completely. He brought in a new vehicle called experimentation. If you have some thought, then you have to test it. You have to create an experiment. And based on that experiment, you have to test your own idea. Test yourself. It's like creating a new vaccine and injecting to your own body. Are you ready? If you create a new drug, and you can give it to others, it is easy. But you have to take that yourself. Are you ready? You have to experiment on yourself. Science is like that. Science creates new ideas based on observation, based on evidence. It comes up with some idea, but it creates an experiment to test it, whether it is correct or not. It tests its own hypothesis. It tests its own idea. For example, in that test, that idea fails. What does science do? Science rejects that idea. It does not cry. It just throws into the dustbin. Comes up with a new idea. Science is not sentimental. Does not clung to any idea. It doesn't bother about whether this idea is from that great man or this great man. It doesn't care individuals. It cares only truth. Science only cares truth. It doesn't care who said it. It only cares whether it is proved correct or not. If there is a counter evidence tomorrow, it is ready to change. It is ready to correct itself. It is ready to modify itself. That is the attitude of science. So, if you, in your life, individual life, if you are ready to recognize your own mistakes, understand your own mistakes, and want to correct those mistakes, and if you don't want to repeat those mistakes again, then you are scientific. Then you are behaving scientifically. But often we think science is only for textbooks. In our life, we behave absolutely unscientifically. Whenever somebody recognizes your mistakes and points them out to you and proves them based on the evidence and logic, you are not ready to accept your mistakes. We are not talking about enemies. Within our own friends, one friend gives evidence. See, your ideas are wrong. See this. There is evidence your idea is wrong, and proves it on the basis of logic. What should you do as a student of science? You should accept that. If you are really scientific, you should accept your mistakes without any ego. You should change your mistakes. You have to correct that mistakes, and you should grow beyond them. You should be continuously learning. That is scientific attitude. Continuously self-reflective means thinking about your own doings, your own ideas, accepting ideas and criticism from others, and ready to change wrong ideas, ready to absorb correct ideas, and test, experiment, observe, continuously test yourself. That is the scientific attitude. So science is not just about technology. Science is not just about understanding nature. Science is not just about creating new inventions. Science is not just about new technology. Science is not just about production. Science about how we conduct ourselves as individuals. Are we rational means behave according to reason. Animals don't behave according to reason. They behave according to instinct. If they are hungry, they just pounce. If they are afraid, they just run. If they are angry, they just fight. But human beings also do it, but we have something, a filter called reasoning. Even though when we are angry, we also want to cry, we also want to shout, but there is something inside our mind which says, is it correct to shout? Is it correct to cry? Is it correct to fight? So there is a cautioning mechanism. It is called reasoning capacity. Human beings have the capacity to reason. Is it correct to do this? Is there a reason to cry? Is there a reason to despair? Is there a reason to fight? You need to ask, always ask. You need to find a reason to do something. Animals don't need reason to do something. If they are hungry, they just go, they eat. But we cannot just go into hotel and we cannot get into a sweet shop and collect a sweet and go out. Can we do that? Because we are bound by certain rules, norms, laws. We have to behave reasonably. Right? We have three capacities. Human beings have three capacities which separate us from animals. Animals do not have these three capacities. But only we, humans, have these three capacities. One is, of course, capacity for reasoning, thinking, logically thinking. What is correct? What is wrong? Capacity for reasoning, that is one capacity. Basing on that capacity, we always try to understand what is truth and what is false. What is true? What is false? We should always follow true. But how do we know what is truth? How do we know what is truth and what is false? When we are children, we depend on our elders. What our elders say to us, this is true and this is false, we believe, because our reasoning capacity has not developed. Once you become adult, when you become old enough, you start using your own reasoning capacity to find out which is true and which is false. That means you are fully grown individual. If you are still asking, if you are still dependent on adults, others, parents, teachers or anybody, what is true and what is false, that means you have not yet grown. You are not using your capacity of reasoning. You become fully human only when you started using your reasoning capacity. You may make mistakes, no problem. You may commit mistakes, no problem. But you learn from them. But use your own capacity for reasoning. Always depend on your own capacity for reasoning. That's called autonomy. Individual autonomy. So, if you really want to become a scientific person, you have to become autonomous. Means your capacity to take decisions based on your own reasoning, that should come. Right? Science is about that too, about your own autonomy. Becoming fully autonomous individual, not dependent on others. Using your reasoning capacity, that is one thing, which separates animals from humans. And there is another thing, second thing, that is called power of imagination. Power of imagination. You know, only humans have this power of imagination. No animal has God. Animals don't worship God. Have you seen animals constructing temples, animals constructing different shapes of gods and going there and worshipping and all that? Have you seen that? Have you seen any animal reciting a poem? Have you seen any animal singing a song? Have you seen any animal writing a novel? Any animal painting a beautiful picture? No. Have you just seen any animal sitting before a sunset and enjoying a sunrise? Have you seen that? No. Only humans do these mad things, strange things. This comes from power of imagination. We imagine things. We try to understand things based on reason, capacity of reason, but we also imagine things. Imagine things. For example, we look at clouds and see, oh, this cloud is like elephant, this cloud is like dragon, this cloud is like a bird, this cloud is like a monster. Clouds are clouds, they are neither monsters nor elephants. But we are imagining, we are creating, we are writing poetry. We write novels, we write poetry. In our poetry, there is a horse which has wings. Right? There is a character called Gandharva who have wings and who can fly. We have created so many gods. We have created so many gods. One god for rain, one god for animal, one god for war, one god for education, one god for everything. Who created gods? Humans created gods. But unfortunately we think that gods created humans. But in fact we, with our imagination power, with our power of imagination, we created gods. It's not a small power. We created gods with unlimited powers and gave them unlimited powers. Even our own fate, we have surrendered our own fate to the gods. Right? It's the power of imagination, great power. When in our childhood, not in our individual childhood, as a race, human race, when we were living in our childhood, some thousands and thousands of years ago, 25,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, when reasoning capacity has not fully developed, our power of imagination was helping us to survive. When we are living in forests, fighting our survival wars with the other animals who are very powerful, we are very weak. We used our power of imagination. We imagined gods and we asked them to help us to survive, to fight our wars. With that motivation, we fought and we survived. Our ancestors survived in forests in so arduous and difficult times. Are we matched with a tiger? Can we match a tiger? Can we match with an elephant? Can we fight with a leopard? No. We are no match to animals. How to survive? And we don't know. Our reasoning capacity is very low, but our power of imagination is so great. So with the help of power of imagination, we motivated ourselves that there are gods. They are there. They can help us. They will protect us. So power of imagination is second thing. Because of that, we have arts, literature, poetry, films, cinema, drama. Everything is there because of that. Power of imagination is important. We need to develop that faculty. Capacity for reasoning, power of imagination, these two very important. Right? These three, two. And there is third category. There is third thing called ability to respond. Ability to respond to the other's needs. Sensibility, it's called sensibility. If some people are suffering, human being cannot ignore. We immediately think about it. We think about it. We respond. We try to help. Of course, our parents, our relatives, everybody said that. Don't respond, it's waste of time. Let them die on their own. No, it's not human. The fundamental human quality is to respond to our own fellow beings. It's our ability, vulnerability. We need to develop it. Our capacity to reasoning also developed. Our power of imagination has to be honed. And our ability to respond to others also has to be developed. These three things make us human. These three things make us human. If you lose any one of them, we are less human. Please remember. We are less human. If we want to be fully human, we need to have these three things. Capacity to reason, capacity to question, not only others, yourself. Capacity to correct the mistakes, not only the mistakes of others, but yourself. Capacity to change ideas based on evidence and logic. Capacity to change ideas and opinions based on evidence and logic. That is scientific temperament. That is scientific attitude. If you have that scientific attitude, if you have that scientific temperament, it's only useful in writing science examinations. It is not only useful to pass science examinations, it is greatly useful building a strong person out of it. It helps you learn new things. Remembering the names of certain science becomes scientific in every aspect. We should understand the ancient scientists and we should understand the modern science. More than that, remember those theories, understand those theories, but most importantly, understand the scientific approach, scientific attitude, that is readiness to correct mistakes based on evidence and logic. Don't submit to any authority. The scientific attitude is, it doesn't care authority. It respects only facts. It respects only test results. It respects only scientific logic. Based on that, truth should be understood. Right? So if the Science Day, National Science Day, the purpose of National Science Day is to make us better human beings who are ready to absorb other opinions, who are ready to learn, who are ready to change, who are ready to improve on the basis of logic and evidence. Beliefs may be there, faith may be there, but it should be limited to your private domain. But in all your public affairs, when you are using your reason freely, then you have to be fearless. You have to base only on evidence. You have to base yourself only on facts. You have to base yourself only on logic. That's the scientific attitude we need to develop as citizens of this great country. When we all inculcate this habit, then our country becomes a great country. We have seen a Japan, a China, a South Korea, who are also old civilizations like us, very traditional, very religious, very cultural, but they have adopted science as part of their culture. So they are making great strides. India is also a great civilization, old civilization, very ancient tradition, but it has to adopt scientific temperament and scientific approach to our culture. Then we will become one of the best in the world. Hope you will inculcate that attitude. Thank you very much.
For your motivational, inspiring and interesting speech. To felicitate Chief Guest.